Happy Monday morning, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well so far today. We have a lot to cover as usual. Let's jump in, shall we? Let's go. We're starting off with Queen Camilla. While Charles was at the World Climate Summit, she went to the Rifles Awards dinner at the City of London Guildhall. Remember, Camilla is Colonel-in-Chief of the regiment. Now, she was also joined by the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester and Prince Richard, who is Queen Elizabeth's second cousin. Camilla gave a speech where she talked about how the last 2 years showcased how fabulous the Rifles are. She pointed out there had been from a full-scale invasion, which was the largest seen in Europe since the Second World War, through the first coronation in 70 years, that, with pride, they've remained in the vanguard and, handling all of the changes. Now, one other interesting thing that happened, the Queen was wearing I guess it was a jacket. Well, come to find out, this jacket belonged to Charles. It was a gift to him when he was in the Middle East in 1998. Pretty cool. Moving on. We're going to move on to Princess Anne now, who gave an award to Andy and Myrtle Darby. They volunteered for 13 years at the Banbury Sailing Club. The CEO of the club said that their sport relies on goodwill. And so you have the husband who is supportive of new members, and the wife gives encouragement and provides welcomes and cake. Very nice. Moving on, we're going back to the last day in the UK for Crown Princess Victoria and Prince Daniel. First, they went to Cranfield University and learned about the Swedish-British cooperation between academia and the business sector as it relates to green transition and future transport. That is pretty cool, and that includes the plane that they got to see. Very, very nice. Moving on. Princess Victoria then went to a lunch at the Swedish ambassador's residence. And then after that, Victoria and Daniel went and met Swedish people who live in the British capital for a coffee at the Church of Sweden ahead of the first Sunday of Advent. Very nice. I believe that this was a very productive trip, and I'm glad that they came. Let's move on now. We're going to move on now to Duchess Sophie. She was at La Licorera in Cali, which is Colombia's city's cultural center for dance and choreography. And she was there to watch a dance performance. This is the British Council's new creative boot camp called Dance and Peace. It's part of the Dance and Peace program. And it supposedly gives opportunities for young people in that specific region, the Pacific region, according to the article, who have been impacted by the armed conflict. Looks like it was a great performance. Looked like Sophie really, really enjoyed it. And she spoke to them after they were done dancing. And yeah, I just love her. People just relate to her so well. A big thank you to Remoulade Sauce for all the information on what she was wearing. Next up, Sophie went to a fashion showcase of work by designers impacted by armed conflict. She said, and I'm quoting, "It is a fusion of fashion and environmental responsibility, but also serves as a celebration of the resilience and creativity of those who crafted it." Wonderful. So this was a peace and sustainable fashion show. And the theme of it was peace and the natural environment in Colombia. And in showcasing that, here is Duchess Sophie wearing one of these beautiful dresses. We have seen this dress before, of course. And a big thank you to Remoulade Sauce, again, for showing us what she's wearing. Next up, Sophie went to Bogota, where she arrived at a meeting that was a collaboration of peace builders and survivors of conflict-related sexual violence. Now, for those of you who are unaware, in case I didn't mention it before, Colombia is actually hosting this year's big yearly summit, where everybody comes together and they talk about this sort of thing. So she's helping them prep. Thank you to Remoulade Sauce again for showing us what she was wearing. Now, before she left, she went to another discussion on the development of Colombia's first Women's Peace and Security National Action Plan, because again, Colombia is hosting this year. She looks very pretty in pink. And then before she left, she had a meeting with the former president, Juan Manuel Santos Calderon. It's being reported that he is the architect of peace. I hope that's true. Wonderful. And then the trip was over. Thank you to Remoulade Sauce, by the way. And she flew home. Moving on. Next up, we have Sir Tim Laurence, who has been appointed as chair of the Science Museum Group. This is another patronage for him. Wonderful. Moving on to the king, we knew that he joined a bunch of world leaders at the opening ceremony for the World Climate Action Summit, which is COP28. He spoke at the opening ceremony. I'm sure he had a lot to say, and he seemed completely unbothered by all of this other stuff that's going on. What's so amazing to me is that he's able to keep the focus on his work. He's able to meet with these heads of state and countries. They also seem completely unbothered by all of this information that's coming out. Nobody's paying it attention. Here he's meeting the First Minister of Scotland, Mr. Youssef. Here he is talking to King Abdullah II of Jordan. I mean, we know there were sultans there. The Emir of Gettr was there. I mean, really important people. And through it all, he was smiling. And he had Johnny with him. Looking good, Johnny. Well, when this whole thing ended, Charles flew home and he went straight to Sandringham. But yeah, he doesn't have too much free time. He really needs to discuss what he's going to do with this new storm that's brewing because of Harry, Meghan, and Omid. This has always been over his head the whole time he was at COP28. We all know what happened. I'm not going to go through that whole thing again. We do know that the publisher claimed it was a translation error. Then they simply turned around and said it was an error. Now the palace is actually considering all of their options, including legal options. I've told you before, and I'm saying it again, I firmly believe that this was done intentionally because Omid had already said he couldn't release the name in the UK, but there was nothing to stop him from releasing it out of the UK. They're saying that people are calling for the titles to be removed, and Charles apparently is saying that he doesn't want to remove their titles because he doesn't want to, quote unquote, humiliate them. Right. I agree with this Twitter user. He doesn't want to humiliate them, yet Harry and Meghan just informed the world that the names are indeed correct because they came out with a statement. What Harry and Meghan did was they put out a statement saying, we never intended for those names to be published, and we never intended to publicly identify anyone, which essentially means they just said that, yes, those names are correct. They also deny leaking the letter. So while it's pretty obvious that King Charles is not going to take any action and is going to allow Harry and Meghan to continue to attack, Conservative MP Bob Seeley has decided he's had enough. He is going to put forward a bill that could deny Harry and Meghan their Duke and Duchess standing because the royal family is just constantly being dragged through the mud. So this bill would force Commons to consider turning Harry and Meghan into Mr. and Mrs. Sussex. Yep, they wouldn't even be able to use the Prince title. They're literally going to remove it all. Mr. Seeley wrote in the Mail on Sunday that nobody believes Harry and Meghan's claims that they're not behind the book. He said, I suspect few people believe their denials. And he said that of all the damaging insults to throw, racism is the most poisonous because it leaves a whiff of stigma and it's impossible to prove when false, and it's a catch-all slur of the modern era. So, he's going to take action where the king won't, which may be Harry and Meghan may realize that this is coming, which is why they're putting out such big denials. Even Thomas Markle stepped up and said, another letter from my daughter that made it into the public domain? Really? Anyway, this draft legislation is formally titled A Bill to Amend That's the act to deprive, in certain circumstances, princes of their British dignitaries and titles. Because the original 1917 Act allowed the Privy Council to make a report about British nobles suspected of aiding the enemy. So if neither the Commons nor the Lords table a motion oppressing it within 40 days, then the report is going to go straight to King Charles, and the person concerned is going to lose their title. Well, there you go. Charles wouldn't take action. Others will. Wow. Moving on, for those of you who may not be aware, the National Christmas tree was lit at the White House and the U.S. Invictus team was there. What you may not have realized is that Harry wasn't there. I don't believe he was invited. I think Invictus is getting a whiff that it's probably not a good idea. So with all of this going on, they're saying now, the articles are coming out now saying that Harry and Meghan's approach to getting fame is called a wrecking ball approach, and it's failing them, and they come off now as C-list ex-reality TV contestants. That is true. And so because of all the leaks and the planting that Harry and Meghan have done, people have come out now and said, Harry, you might as well just accept and let go. There will be no rejoining the family like ever. Now, I believe Harry knew this book was coming out and he knew what was going to happen, which is why he called his father on his 75th birthday and told everybody he did. And they sent gifts to, William and Catherine's children because he knew what was about to happen. Now, I got a little bit of an update for you. We know that Omid has accused the Dutch translator of making the error. Like somehow she just decided, but keep in mind, she's been doing this job for 20 years. She just decided to pluck two names and just put them in the book. I mean, basically that's what Omid is saying. Omid is saying he never put the names down in writing. Well, it's coming out now that the Dutch translator said that the names were in Omid's original manuscript. Yes, they were there. So apparently Omid did have the names originally in the manuscript and he probably sent the wrong copy, and that's what happened. So what happens next? Jack Royston, sugar number 2 behind Omid, is saying that Piers runs the risk of being sued for naming the royal racist. That's a load of bunk. The names were out. They were all in the news. All he did was read them out on the air. Nice try, though. Piers Morgan, what Piers Morgan really did was he got rid of the whole blackmail thing that was going on. If you don't give us what you want, what we want, if you don't allow us for Christmas, we're going to name them. But they were already named. So now people are telling the royal family, you need to destroy Omid Scobie. You need to look at your options. You need to take action. And I think that's what they're going to do, honestly. I mean, Rob Johnson even came out and said that basically Omid is regurgitating and enhancing claims made by Meghan to Oprah that were never, substantiated. And it's driven by fame, book sales, and money. And that he thinks that Omid is actually believing his own BS and he's overreaching himself. I mean, Mr. Jobson said that, he has some sympathy for Meghan because she must have found the whole royal trappings, a little daunting. But he said, I've been a Fleet Street royal correspondent since 1990, and I covered real scandals like the collapse of Charles and Diana's marriage and, all of this stuff. He goes, this entire storyline is crap. So articles are coming out now saying that Omid getting both sides of any story has never been his thing. He puts out what he considers to be one story, and he usually embellishes. He's not telling the truth. And I am about to give you a perfect example. This is what he said about Piers Morgan when he was being interviewed just the other day. Listen to this.
Not true, so I don't find that particularly credible.
He's also said stuff about Meghan in the past as well, so
Yes.
Yeah. He also wrote an op-ed this week saying that they should be burned alive or something like that. Yeah. So
none of that's acceptable. That's the thing. None of it's acceptable.
Well, Piers came right out swinging and said, "I said that? Wow, that's amazing. I wrote an op-ed piece this week for newspapers, and I said I wanted Harry and Meghan burned alive. Well, here's what I actually said. What he said was, I can't speak for Charles, Camilla, William, or Kate, but if two close family members of my family had spent the last few years trashing the rest of us on a global media platform, the only way I'd want to spend Christmas with them is if they were human chestnuts roasting on my open fire. He said, that's my family I'm talking about. If some of my family did what they did, I'd have them as human and chestnuts on a roasting fire. Where does it say that I said I would burn Meghan and Harry alive? There you go. All right, let's move into what is, believe it or not, this is a big story. Apparently, Britain's richest man, one of the richest men, he's a billionaire, and he is getting married, and it's the biggest high society wedding, and he is the Duke of Westminster. He's been friends with Harry and Meghan and William and Catherine, and he had to choose. You can't have both. So he chose William and Catherine. He said he wanted to invite Harry and Meghan, but he didn't want clashes on his big day with all of the tension that's going on. And also the king and queen are going to be there, and he just didn't want any awkward moments. Now, here's the interesting part. Harry and Meghan have not told anybody who the godfathers are of Archie. It's a closely guarded secret. So out of the blue, they reveal that this man is Archie's godfather. Trying to make him feel guilty for not inviting him. However, it also has come out that he's godfather to Prince George, who will be at the wedding as well. And to top it all off, it's being reported that William is in the running to be the best man at the wedding. Yep. Now, people reached out to Harry and Meghan to ask what they thought about this, and you can just tell this was Meghan's response because it was so snarky. We are not in a position to comment on the guest list. That's right, because you've been excluded. Despite being a billionaire, for those of you who don't know it, it's being reported he owns more land than King Charles. He has a net worth of over £9 billion, and his father was godfather to King Charles. This man was the third child and the only son of the 6th Duke of Westminster and his wife, Natalia. And she's a descendant from Russian imperial house of Romanov. You guys, we know what would happen if they went to that wedding. She would dress inappropriately. She would probably over-emote. She would try to take the attention away from the bride. She would do what she did to Eugenie, I mean, really. So articles are coming out saying that because of his serial disloyalty, he's being excluded from events with people that he thought were his closest friends, and not being invited with the king and queen there and the Waleses and all the cream of British high society underlines how much of an outcast he has now become. They're saying that even on his recent trips, he was shunned by his old friends. I believe that. And I want to finish up with a tweet from Naomi Skye, which I think sums up everything about Meghan. She lied about the New York car chase, about Archie burning in a house fire, about Archie not getting a title because of his black blood. She lied in court about helping with Finding Freedom. She lied about never looking up the royals. She lied about her father never taking care of her, about her being 43% Nigerian, getting married 3 days before in their garden, being suicidal, her miscarriage, the royals taking her passport and keys, about her sister changing her name, about inviting her father to the wedding, when she met Harry, when Harry proposed, when she lied about signing deals as a working royal before Megxit. She's a liar. And she always has that cat ate the canary grin on her face. Have you guys noticed that? All through the years, it's never changed. She's the cat that ate the canary. All right, I want to show you guys a few pictures. Everybody's asking about Finn, and there's Toodles. We're having rainy weather here. Finn doesn't like to go out in the rain. He just doesn't. But I would like to think he and the cat are getting a little bit closer to each other. I mean, they're not killing each other right now while they're laying together. So cute. All right, you guys. Again, lots and lots and lots of information. Don't forget to put those comments down. Make them good. I'm reading them. Don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button. And if you've already done that, double check and make sure you're still subscribed. If you've donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.